Throw out your credit cards. It's Uncle Says. Hello, fellow foreigners, wherever you are. I am Emily, and with me, as always, is Peter.
Hot dog.
And this is Uncle Says, brought to you by Hello Uncle Foreigner, a weekly discussion of what it's like to make creative work while living in China. We are coming to you live to tape from the fabulous whoopwu studios here in Luzhou, China. It's a cold and rainy night. So we have 4 segments in which we'll discuss the various aspects of making films, short films, and vlogs from China, as I said. The segments are How's Your Uncle?, where we share a little bit from our personal life. 2 is Conducting Business, a look at the logistics and the kind of businessy side of YouTube. Number 3 is Commentary, where we talk a little more creatively about some work that we posted this week. And then we bring it home with segment 4, Watch It, in which we make a media recommendation that has particularly inspired us this week. Our big topic tonight is from the Conducting Business, where we're going to talk a lot about our vlog channel. The newly spun off Hello Foreigner is a month old, and so we did kind of a look back at how that month went. So we'll get pretty in depth into our findings from the past month. But first, how's your uncle? Let's ask. So first we just had dinner because it's nighttime here. I don't know where you are and what time it is there, but it's nighttime.
Or when you eat dinner.
It's nighttime here. It's post-dinner time here, and we just had a really delicious dinner. It was from a new place, and the thing about it, so first of all, Luzhou is in Sichuan province, so we enjoy a lot of Sichuan food. Which is very spicy, but it's really good. We love it. And there's like a ma and pa restaurants have their staples. Like every restaurant in Luzhou, it seems, serves these special kind of green beans with mustard greens on them. Or they have this fried potato pancake dealie. There's just a bunch of dishes that repeat on everyone's menu because that's the staple of the area. Which I just say because we ordered from a new restaurant tonight that had a very similar menu to another restaurant we ordered from. But not that like, oh, it's just the staples, it's just the basics. They're like very specific, like this garlicky peanut dish with bacon. And what else did we have?
We had peppers.
Oh yeah, tiger stripe peppers, but that is a basic.
Oh, that's different. The green was different.
The green was different. It was seasonal greens. I'm not making my point very well. But they had a suspicious amount of dishes that were not basics that were the exact same as the other restaurant. But the other restaurant didn't have a mashed potato, and we wanted to have mashed potatoes tonight. And it turned out the new restaurant is better. So sorry, old restaurant. We've moved on to a new restaurant. But
Although
yeah,
you can never tell with the holiday. Maybe one might be open, the other one closes, the other one opens, the another different. They could trick us.
That's true. That's true. And
it's happened a lot of years.
New Year's is classically for us a time where we jump ship to a new restaurant because such and such restaurant is closed and this one is open, and now we go here now.
Maybe that's the turning point for that restaurant.
Yeah. I mean, they were open, they just didn't have mashed potatoes tonight, and we wanted
Or the
mashed
last
potatoes.
time.
That's true, and the last time, yeah, they substituted our mashed potatoes for string cut potatoes.
Jerking us around with potatoes.
Which were good, but we wanted mashed. So, yeah, it was really a really delicious meal. Good tofu soup. Oh, this is, I mean, everybody also has this one. It's a tofu soup with, like, mustard greens and, what are those called? They're white. Sprouts. Not Brussels sprouts.
Sprouts.
Just sprouts, bean sprouts. And other stuff in it. It's a common soup, and this place had a better version of that soup. So
Yep.
it wasn't like a crazy meal, but it was a crazy delicious meal. And we found a new place.
We don't really eat too crazy.
We don't eat too crazy.
There's no monkey brains.
I've come out in the past as saying that I'm kind of a picky eater. And Peter is
Beans.
more picky than me, I think.
Right. Yeah, you'll eat heads and stuff. You ate a head once.
Did I?
Rabbit.
Oh, no, I didn't eat the rabbit head. I ate just rabbit.
Oh.
But, yeah. So, anyway, that was dinner, and it was delicious. Also, this week, I made a new friend at the gym. Most of my life takes place at the gym, because that's the only place I go other than work. Otherwise, Peter and I are working at home. But so I made a new friend, and it made me start thinking, because initially she was looking for an English teacher. And so she asked me if I could teach, and I said I don't teach outside of my school, because that's illegal. And I gave her the number of my friend who his Chinese wife told her, like, nope, it's all around illegal. You're not going to find a foreigner who can come teach at your school, which is a shame. I would have liked to have been part of a business deal born at the gym, because it felt very like networking power move or something, you know. But she seems like a nice person, and she takes, she has her training session at similar times to me, so I see her a lot. She actually is doing personal trainer with her friend, and I like to watch them because they do like fun activities together, like they tug of war with a tension band, and they I don't know, it seems fun. I don't think Peter's going to take classes with me though.
Not with a rubber band.
Not with a rubber band. But it got me thinking again about how weird it is to make friends as an adult, because usually, like, by the time you get to adulthood, you have friends.
You're full up.
Yeah. You make friends when you're little because you live next door, or you make friends in college because they live down your hall. I mean, the psychology is in proximity is the greatest predictor of friendship. But when you're an adult, there's not like opportunities to be friends, to find new friends, I feel. I mean,
unless you're an outgoing person.
Yeah, I guess that's the factor that's missing. But so I was glad that we exchanged phone numbers, and so we might be friends. Yay!
If you're watching this, friend.
Hello, friend. Yeah, but that's what's been going on in our life. I've been off from school for about a week now. It feels longer because we were hard at work on new content, so stay tuned. New content coming in March. But so let's get to the big stuff and conduct some business. All right, conducting business, where we break down the actual work of putting together a YouTube channel. Like I mentioned in the intro, last month we spun off the vlog into Hello Foreigner for some various reasons that we covered a few weeks ago. And so this is our month about a month that we've been running there. And so because we decided to take down all the videos from this channel, our original channel, and just repost them on the new channel, we have kind of a scientific-ish comparison that we can make. I'll tell you, there are some non-controlled variables. The biggest one being that because we have a backlog archive, we're posting every day on Hello Foreigner, whereas we posted once or twice a week on Hello Uncle Foreigner. So that changes the data somewhat. And we're also better at SEO and different kind of packaging effects. Publicity. So it could be that we're just doing better at it the second time around, even with the same content. But the numbers, by every metric, the new channel is more successful than the old channel. The watch time is longer. The views are higher at an earlier date. Like, for example, we had a... Drink Up Blue Joe. Well, I'll get into that. But the big number that made it pretty clear to us that the new channel is more successful is in the first 30 days of Hello Uncle Foreigner, we gained 1 subscriber. And in the first 30 days of Hello Foreigner, we gained 31 subscribers. And even if you want to say, like, well, how long did it take you to put out that same amount of videos? So about 3 months. In that 3 months, we had gained 13 subscribers in that amount of videos. So it's all around more successful. So the reasons for our success, like I said, I think we're better at SEO and thumbnails, which...
SEO means?
SEO meaning search engine optimization. So picking keywords that answer... Or picking keywords that other people are likely to type in and want your video as an answer. And the thumbnails are the small pictures that kind of advertise your video when it pops up. And so both of those things we worked on a lot over the years. So we have a year's worth of knowledge and experience of what works and what doesn't. SEO, we pick keywords that are descriptive, but also that... Like, if you look up a video and maybe possibly this such and such keyword fits, but if you look up that keyword, it's not actually what you want to see, people don't click on that then. So we've learned to, like, streamline, be for real specific, and also, like, genuinely answer the question. Stop trying to sneak in, like, if someone's looking up... I can't think of any examples.
Well, as one coach said, don't be clever.
Yeah. Nobody's looking up professional wrestling and, like, wants to see, I don't know, a kid dance show, you know? So don't do that. Even if the kids dance show involves something that looks like wrestling. So anyway, targeted SEO, and then that the thumbnail looks good, which Peter is a graphic designer, so they always looked very good. But I think in this last month, you've kind of hit upon a strategy. It's not just that it looks good, but that it also introduces to you to what the story might be.
Like a magazine or a book cover, the telling of the story from looking something up in the SEO to seeing a thumbnail that tells a story that makes you want to watch.
Yeah, that invites you in and makes you want to see what's next. And the same with the title. Use a keyword, but also make a human readable title that, like, is meaningful and intriguing, and that you might want to pursue what that's about.
In the old days, it used to just be a screen capture that that YouTube would automatically just put up.
And the like rules for it are it should have rules. It should have a face, and especially with the eyes like looking out at the viewer, because we have a psychological response to looking at someone's face.
Mesmerized like snakes.
And it helps if the face is like a nice opening face instead of like.
Unless you're going for that.
Unless you're going for. So it's simple, but complicated.
It's all marketing stuff that's as old as them our hills, but we just figured out a little bit better how to move it towards.
Yeah.
YouTube.
They're not. It's not new ideas, but it's in a new space online, and we could see the success, for example, in our recent talk show project, which we in-house are calling Drink Up Blue Joe, but that's not a thing, so we had to name it something different this time around. And I think we called it something like, What Do You Eat There in China?
We'll call it, and then in Chinese.
And then in Chinese, I said something different.
Food around the world?
Yeah, you can't read the Chinese. But I do know that I wrote an English title and a Chinese title that was different, but also intriguing. Oh, what do foreigners eat in China? I think is what I said in Chinese. And then the search term portion of the title was food around the world. And that video on the old channel in 1 year, or 7 months it was up. In 7 months it got 61 views. And on the new channel in 7 days, in about 7 days it got 68 views. So 64 views, sorry.
Or maybe 8.
Anyway, it did as well or better than it did on the old channel. So we feel like that's a pretty good proof of concept that we're on the right track and moving and redesigning. The second factor of our success is that I think over the last year, Peter especially is the one in charge of doing our online sharing, but that he's found some forums that are really receptive to us, and he stopped wasting his time with online forums that don't give us any result. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, it's just a matter of finding who your audience is, really. I would think, like any business, you wouldn't go to the gym to find a place to sell your hot dogs. It doesn't make much sense. So finding the right groups, the right forums, the right people will get you the right views. Wrong views could just end up like we did. We got a decent amount of views, but no one watches the full video because they're not interested in the subject matter. They just thought like, wow, that looked cool. Okay, it's not.
Yeah, they watch for like 3 to 40 seconds, and that actually hurts us.
Yeah.
More than it helps.
So getting the right views, I think, is an important part of our plan this time around.
Yeah. So we and I think those two have combined. We know that we are more successful in those two areas, and then the third area, maybe a cause or maybe an effect, is that the new channel is being more well received by YouTube in general. It's promoting it more. It's giving us more impressions. The impressions have a higher click-through rate. And that could be just because we're better at the other two, or that there was some shenanigans with the first channel that it just got buried in the algorithm and was never going to surface.
Yeah, we probably buried it.
Yeah. But, I mean, the results are pretty stark. 31 subscribers organically versus, even with the big number, 13 subscribers. And 9 of those were friends and family. We, begged for a whole weekend to join our channel. So, I think, we're doing well. And some of those 31 are probably the original subscribers. Thank you for following us over to the new channel as well. We love to have you wherever any of us are.
And all of this is to say that it's not necessarily... What we want is for people to watch our films, so learning all this stuff is important. It's not for, YouTube fame.
Yeah,
but the amount of learning the backside just to get people to watch.
We're proud of our work, and so we do want to do this work that's less fulfilling, but it means that people can see the work that we love.
Yeah, the hard work is not the fun work, but that's the only way that you've got any chance of getting seen.
Yeah. Other kind of results from our look back, our deep analytic dive, is we found that there is a whole lot of truth to the preferred SEO guru strategy of like, find a keyword that's blowing up and then make a video about that. That's not how our creative process works, but we did try it a couple times, especially with the giraffe series over on Hello Foreigner, which all of those are tagged not leaving China, because there is an ongoing discussion about foreigners who are fed up with living in China and why I'm leaving China, which is not even a new thing. Foreigners in China have been loudly leaving China ever since they've been allowed in. But it's...
I bet Marco Polo probably will.
Yeah, Marco Polo left a letter. Why I'm leaving China. Ciao!
SEO that.
And so we use that keyword, and, you know, it's clickbait, but it is also like we feel strongly annoyed enough about that we did want to push back. And
just we have something to say.
Yeah. We're not leaving China, and that's fine. It's fine if you need to go live somewhere else. It's fine if you want to keep living here. It's fine if you never want to live here. You have to live somewhere. But so we used that keyword to our advantage and had some fun with it. Another big result we saw. So I'm going to start this with the example. So we had a video about taking taxi rides around the city because, you know, we don't drive here. We usually take the bus, or mostly these days take taxis wherever we go because it's cheap and easy. And I've gotten to...
From New York, we're used to taxis, and a lot of
Yeah.
foreigners take taxis anyways.
Yeah.
It's hard to get a driver's license.
But over the years, I've had some interesting interactions with taxi drivers. So that video is mostly about like these stories and these chats I've got to have with kind of relative strangers while they're driving me around. But when we looked at the analytics of how that video did, the best parts where we had the most audience retention are the few times I mentioned what I don't like or the behaviors I see in Chinese drivers that are somewhat non-standard, let's say. Because I don't... Okay. Traffic here is an issue, and traffic fatalities here are bigger than they are in my home country. But I'm not here to bash on why that is or how that happens.
I've spent thousands of hours in traffic and looking at accidents in Connecticut. So
yeah. So that's not. I'm not interested in feeding into that stereotype. But it looks like, oops, I did, because that was the most popular, most watched part of that video. And the standard advice for YouTube creators is to look at those moments where you're having more successes and then do more stuff like that. So if we took that advice, we would start gradually talking more and more about how terrible Chinese drivers are until we're like the terrible Chinese driver channel, which is
yeah,
like,
we don't really want to become the Luzhou traffic
who
report.
wants that? But it just is like YouTube is nudging us through that audience response towards negativity. And actually, there have been some studies done to see that that feedback loop, seeing what your audience responds to and doing what they respond to, and then, you know, so on. The feedback loop, that's how that works, generally nudges people towards an extremist point of view, which, you know, sucks. That's not the world we want to be living in, but it's the world we are living in. And so for us, I think that's your opportunity to make a choice. You can watch what's popular and then keep doing what's popular, but then you're kind of out of control of your own message, and I think it's kind of a challenge to your integrity. If you're gonna do more only of what people expect from you, that's how you get pushed into a place that maybe you wouldn't have wanted to be in from the start, but that it happened so gradually too, I think is part of the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Don't do what you want to do. Make your own life. Be the kind of person you want to be. That's our advice for the week.
Yeah, and so it is, like, all these analytics are useful information, but they're not a direction. They're not, I don't think you should be chasing analytics, because that's going to drive you into, like, a nonsense place, if not an extremist, terrible place.
Unless you need to.
Well, no, I think about it. You realize that you're making a choice, and we realize that the choice is maybe we won't become as popular as fast as if we did kind of bow to the pressure of, because there's nothing inherently wrong of in the advice of, like, see what your audience responds to and then do more of that, except that we do have, and this is just one example, but we have a lot of proof that what the audience responds to is quite negative. And there's already enough channels out there
on every subject
that are like how terrible everything is. And that's, I think,
it's disheartening.
It's disheartening and upsetting, and so that's
and boring.
That's why we make that choice, that, like, it's good to have the information there, but the information is not a mandate. So we're just going to continue
being not well received.
Being not well received. No, we are real well received, just in a
not in huge quantities, yeah.
Population. Our audience is small but great, I think.
We don't need masses. Only quality views.
Only quality views here at Uncle Foreigner. Hello, Foreigner. But yeah, so it was interesting to dive into all that information and see, first, success, yay, and second, we could, if we let ourselves, get pushed into a really bad direction, so let's make sure to keep our eyes on our vision and not what the masses of YouTube, the rabble, wants to rouse.
The dark side?
The dark side, yeah. Yeah, so...
What's on the light side?
On the light side. I guess we can move on to commentary. We don't have a bumper for that, so commentary. It's the DVD extras where we talk a little bit about the videos that we posted this week. And the videos I want to talk about are our 3 major travel videos that we posted up this week. We went to America, Vietnam, and Bangkok. I wouldn't say Thailand. We only went to Bangkok. And so let's talk about the process of making a travel video, because that's pretty different than the other videos on our channel. It's very different from vlogging. And
I would say any vlogger has a travel video in them.
Yeah.
It's just deciding to be a vlogger or to be a travel video, or definitely different routes you can take.
Yeah. And I think for us, a huge inspiration, Anthony Bourdain was a really big inspiration on what we were trying to achieve with these videos, in that he's not a travel guide, it's not servicey. He was going, sadly, to these places to meet the people and to share in their food, but also use that food to share in their cultural experience. And I mean, we're not alone in that. I think that's a really great goal.
Just about anyone that's outside of America is a huge fan.
Yeah.
Of Bourdain.
I think people inside too.
Yeah. No, but
people who, lots of people are. We're not alone in that. But so that's, with a team of 2 and no advanced team and no in-city fixers. We wanted to get as close as possible to that aesthetic. We posted them in, I think, reverse production order. So let's talk about America First, which is
A slogan.
Oops. It was, so America was the first video we posted recently, but actually the last video we produced of those 3. So it had the benefit of all the experience from the other ones. We were in America for about a month in 2016, and we took tons and tons of footage, like hundreds of hours of footage.
Yeah.
And I think where we're not pursuing travel vlogging at present is because these videos, by necessity, like I said, we don't have a crew, are by necessity tape now, assemble later. Whereas ideally, I'd like to have some kind of narrative arc at the beginning, before production, that we try to achieve through production. But that's just not possible with the 2 of us and the resources we have.
It's not really fun for us. We don't really like to go stand in front of things and then point it out later as to what it was. That's just not our interest. I mean, they're great. We watch them. We watch travel videos.
Yeah.
But for us to make them, it's kind of like, yeah, we did that. I don't know what to say after that. If there's a mountain, look at it.
But so they're kind of they're like collages of the time that we spent there. And someone once called our work home movies, and that's not entirely inaccurate. I mean, now we're trying to move away from. We're trying to have a little more polish than that. But I think our travel videos do have the feel of like you just took a bunch of footage and threw it together. Mm-hmm. The narrative we decided on after the fact for America is that everyone, while we were there, kept asking us what China was like, which was a hard question to answer because at the time we had lived here for 6 years, and so it was just like, well, it's just like a home where people live. Everybody speaks Chinese there, but otherwise they're all, people like you and me. And then so we wanted to flip the question and kind of answer, well, what's America like? And of course, America is also a big country, and we were only in New York and Massachusetts because that's where my family lives, and that's who we were visiting. But that was our attempt. So we kind of put. You made it a first edit, and then I wrote a narrative, and then we kind of both re-edited.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to piece together. We ended up with 15 minutes and 28 seconds. Mm-hmm. And even then, we still found it really hard to say that much about anything other than sort of, here's some pictures of us on boats and...
There's a lot of boats, which is not a bad thing. And I think also, like, there was at one point a 45-minute cut, which...
was definitely like a lot of home movie.
Yeah, it was very home movie, and it was an effort to include everybody that we saw in America. But it also was like, we had to weigh... It was way more boring, and, like, even if you were happier because you were in the long cut and you wouldn't have been in the short cut, you're not going to watch you're only going to watch the part where you're on. Versus, like, I do think we made a video that said something, and you don't necessarily have to be in to be interested in it.
And when you're going through stuff and you're editing, and maybe you've watched what you're putting together 2 or 3 times, and then you realize you're not really watching it anymore. Mm-hmm. You're just kind of like, oh, here's this part. I'm going to fast forward through it. I don't want to watch it again. Imagine what somebody who doesn't know your family thinks.
Yeah. So we did have ambitions. We didn't want just our family to watch just the parts that they were in. We wanted to put something together that strangers might be interested in and consider, what is America like? What does it mean to live in America?
And we still got over 15 minutes out of it.
Yeah, and I think it's good. I think you're down on it, but I think it's good. I think it came out good.
Yeah, I feel like, in retrospect, I'd like it to be more coherent in a message. But
right, but that's the challenge in that we had to get the footage first and then put it together as puzzle pieces to find the story, rather than like we didn't have an idea or a hypothesis we were exploring beforehand.
Yeah, as far as putting together a really snappy home movie, I'm definitely excited about it.
Yeah.
It's just, I think, if we had gone about it, again, with travel, if we had thought about it when we left, of like, what are the points that we make, what's the footage that we want to capture while we're back home, and then bring it home and work on it.
Yeah.
But we weren't working that way back then. So
Yeah.
Things you learn is the whole process of what we're going through to revisit these videos.
Yeah. And then, so Vietnam was the second of the bunch, and Vietnam was the first.
I think Vietnam was the first. Doesn't really matter.
Vietnam in time was the first trip that we took of these three. And then maybe we finished it after America. We took like 3 years to finish Vietnam. And part of that was an emotional resistance to the trip because we didn't really have a good time the whole time. And a lot of it was our own fault due to like poor planning and poor budgeting, and then we got snookered in a scam that left a bad taste in our mouth.
If you're looking it up, it's called Out of Our Comfort Zone.
Yeah,
so.
It was definitely, and it was something where we had been living and traveling in China for many years at that point, and so we were kind of a little too cocky about going to a country we'd never been to before, because this was our first time visiting Vietnam. So through no fault of the country, it was just not a fun trip for us, and so it was
or at least half.
Yeah, so Ho Chi Minh City was really what we didn't like. Dalat.
We loved.
Dalat and the Highlands were beautiful and peaceful and wonderful.
City life was not the kind of city that we enjoyed.
It was not the city for us.
Yeah. But getting out to the countryside was there was a lot of eye-opening. We learned a lot, and we're really taken by the country.
But because of that, and like I felt foolish that we made these choices that turned out to be bad choices. So it was hard to then try to craft a narrative out of that until we hit upon the idea of, well, then let's not tell the straightforward story. Let's create kind of a crazy, overwhelmed narrator who is also not having a good time, but not that it's a show don't tell, in that you can tell by the way she's speaking.
She's a little addled.
Things are a little off, rather than like, here's what went wrong.
Well, everyone says on the other side of pointing out all the negative things in a lot of videos, the other side is everyone just shows what a great, beautiful time and how great their life is, their Facebook life, whatever you want to call it. So not everything has to be the worst trip I've ever had or the best trip I ever had. Sometimes you just go to a place and that's fine.
Yeah, and it actually turned into an interesting challenge of how do you tell the story of a not fun experience in a way that's not just complaining. And I think it came out really interesting.
Yeah. Well, and then the fact that it has like 3 different segments.
Yeah.
The second being the countryside, and it totally changed the whole story around. Even in your narrator's voice, going from crazed in the city to relaxed into the countryside, and some of that even like we couldn't even put in to the video just for reasons.
Yeah.
Well, we couldn't really film most of it.
Yeah.
We found really exciting.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
but yeah, so like what you can actually put into a travel video, leave in, leave out.
Yeah.
There's a lot to go through rather than just, I suppose, just film a thing and say, look at me looking at a thing.
Right. And this one, originally, last year when we put it out, we did put it out as 3 separate pieces because they were approached and edited and written as 3 different movies as a triptych. But it turns out for YouTube, it's actually better to smush them all together because then you get better watch time numbers.
So we ended up with 18 minutes and 14 seconds.
Yeah.
All of it gold.
And no second wasted. But yeah, so that was it was a challenging one, and it was something that we picked up and put down many times over the course of three years, I think. And then I think finishing America kind of put the fire under us to finish Vietnam as well.
A lot of it, like the when you really get into the editing part of it, like you can have tons of footage, but that almost just makes it harder. There's just so much stuff to go through to find what the story is. You may have to watch like 10 hours of like your feet in car doors to like decide even what to cut out before you even start to get to the story.
Yeah, well, because that mode of documenting too is like you have to just put the camera down and wait for something to happen. Because otherwise, you've interfered and you've caused something to happen, and that's not documentary, that's fiction. There's nothing wrong with that, but for these pieces, we wanted them to be documentary. And so, that's,
It just takes time.
It just takes time. It takes time, it takes footage, it takes patience.
Sometimes 3 years for 18 minutes.
Yeah. And I do recall, though, on that trip, because we were filming a lot, that I tried to catch more diegetic speech on camera. Like, I think there was specifically, we were at this noodle restaurant in Dalat, and I asked you to narrate, like, what are you putting on your soup? So that we could have a moment, rather than create the narrative only in voiceover, that sometimes we would be speaking to you diegetically from the original footage itself. But we had limited success with that.
Yeah,
it's really hard to do.
Yeah, we're not everybody's Anthony Bourdain.
There's a reason why all the shows on the Food Network and the Travel Channel are all put together in voiceover. It's because it's way easier.
Yeah, even like just by the logistics of it's too loud everywhere.
Yeah, that's a big problem actually. If you're shooting in the field.
Even with good
very
microphones, with labs,
yeah.
It's still just noise is everywhere.
Yeah. But that brings us to Thailand, which is in chronological order, the second trip we took, but the first video we made and published, because that one very much was a transition that was at the time recently after that. Our colleague had made that home movie crack, so we were like, well, what if we make something slightly better than a home movie? I know, let's have a voiceover. And so, again, it was Peter had taken footage around town while we were there in Bangkok, and then after I took notes with an eye towards, what are we going to say in the video.
It also helped that we were there for business, but we were broke, so we actually had absolutely nothing to do except for take video footage and make notes.
Yeah.
So that's basically what we did for that week.
Yeah. Yeah, it's again another trip that wasn't like super fun, and this one I can't get too into it, but we did not choose to take that trip. Circumstances and a criminal boss forced us out of the country for a visa run. And I will never forgive them for that.
But yeah, I mean, when I guess any like person that travels for business, I suppose, when you're in a situation where you are lucky enough to travel, at some point, a lot of trips just become like, I was at a place. Like, did you have a nice time when you were there? Like, probably. Sure.
It was warm in January, so that was nice.
Yeah, there was good food.
There was such good food.
Yeah. But as far as like, well, we didn't have the money. Staying in Bangkok is very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like we were hitting the town or anything.
Yeah, and we weren't able to find accommodation ahead of time for every night. So there was a few nights that we spent in this hostel. Not a hotel. And nothing wrong with hostels, but this one was not a good one. That the room was like about this big, and it had a terrible like chemical paint smell or something.
And a shared bathroom.
And a shared bathroom, which again, like, I've been in hostels where you have to share the bathroom, but there would...
This was a share slippers.
It was shared slippers. And then the slippers went missing, and we had, like, such a weird... It wasn't a fight, because she wasn't accusing us of stealing the slippers, but the woman who ran the hostel was, like, she insisted the slippers were there, and we're looking at the floor right now, and there's no slippers here. It's
so
just
these are some of the
it's
exciting,
a strange experience.
These are some of the exciting stories that you get from traveling.
Yeah.
Just really don't make for very good video.
Yeah, that's a lot of traveling is fighting with hostel owners about slippers.
Or planes, or just really boring stuff. Walking through airports, taking taxi cabs.
Yeah.
Like, and then eventually you find a beautiful mountain and you go, ooh.
Yeah.
Then it's all worth it.
And there was the beautiful mountain in this case was this really good fried chicken from a what are they called? Hawker Center near the Chinese consulate. That the chicken was so good, but we didn't have any video of it, so like as much as I loved it, we couldn't include it in the video. But the tragedy of the chicken, it was so good that we should have ordered two, because when I went back to get another order, they were sold out, and then we never got back there again.
The tragedy of the chicken.
Yeah, and then the second tragedy is we didn't think to film it because we were just like, this chicken is so good that I couldn't even involve that little tidbit in our video. But that one's the most basic of our travel videos, because it really is just like kind of a collage with a voiceover that is kind of timed to what's going on, but kind of not.
And also, these all helped us realize that it's not necessarily what we want to do.
Yeah,
like, traveling, we like travel videos, really just, we'd kind of rather just enjoy our time where we are, and we're not that in-depth into finding out the prices or the locations or transportation. Like, we're lucky we find our way there at all.
Yeah.
And so or we pay for whatever it is in whatever currency it is, like, going back over those notes to find out, like, well, how much did it cost to take that bus to that chicken was just like, I don't care.
Yeah, so I think it was a good learning experience for us in that, because being foreigners living in Southeast Asia, that is a big thing that everyone is like, you should do travel vlogging. And the opportunity is there, but it is... it's not really what we want to do, that we found out.
It's not our interest in video. And
I think I don't want to give the wrong impression that we didn't like any traveling we ever did. It just happened to be, well, I guess because when you weren't having a good time, you just picked up a camera instead. And that's how we made videos.
I just film out of boredom, really.
When we went to Mount 𝗵𝚵, we didn't film anything because it was like so much fun.
We didn't have a camera then.
Oh, and we didn't have a camera.
We used to travel a lot more when we didn't have a video camera.
Yeah.
When we were blogging every stuff, so visit the Hello Uncle Foreigner blog.
Yeah.
For
So we've written a lot of travel pieces where we did actually have fun.
Yeah, because it's easier for you to write and me to throw in a few photos of some great stuff, rather than us begging people to watch 15 minutes of us, walk up a mountain.
Well, and because I think there's a difference between, like, living a moment and capturing a moment, and not to say, like, one's better, but one involves capturing the moment involves a different preparation, and it's also not then a pleasure trip, it's a work trip.
Yeah.
And I think that's our feeling is when we travel, we want to travel, and when we're home
and relax,
we want to write and make little pieces. But yeah, traveling and filming for us is not the relaxation that we want. So,
which is also how, when we are back home and we're working on the videos that we want to work on, that's why we kind of focus on our adopted home of Joe.
Yeah.
It's the little stories of our neighbors and people that we meet that turns out to be more interesting for us to tell stories about than it is of how we had a great time staying on a beach or...
Yeah. And I think there's something to what you're saying about, like, the service journalism aspect of, like, I stayed in this hotel, it costs this much, blah, 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 this restaurant is here. Like, we're not a guidebook, and we don't have guidebook resources, so all we would really be able to bring you is, like, what we already read from someone else's reporting, which didn't feel genuine to us.
Plus, we also did that, both of us, for years and years and years before we moved here, as our daily job at newspapers.
Right.
So,
yeah.
like, we didn't move away from working at newspapers in America to move here and do service journalism.
Yeah, and the kind of Paul Auster style travelogue is not quite as popular. Nobody wants the literary experience of your trip.
Unless you're killing animals.
Unless you're already famous. And I'm not already famous. But yeah, that was how we made our travel videos. It's not to say we'll never make a travel video again, but it did help us narrow our focus to, we want to tell little stories about people. We don't want to tell big stories about a place.
It's where we feel the most at home.
Yeah.
It's home.
It's home. So let's wrap this up with a watch it recommendation. Again, we don't have a bumper for this, so
maybe next
watch
week.
It next week. I mean, watch the bumper next week. This week.
Watch it.
We recommend the HBO series High Maintenance just came back, and the premise...
Third season?
I guess it's the third season. Not counting. So High Maintenance for YouTubers is one of those famous... It started as a YouTube project and then moved to HBO. That's the dream.
Dear to our hearts for that reason.
Yeah. And the premise is it follows the journeys of a pot dealer in New York City, but that's actually, on that structure, he goes in and out of people's lives, giving you a vignettes of different character moments. So you get to meet, usually in an episode, several different people.
Usually about 3 different scenarios in an episode.
And they're really good at including people from all walks of life, all economic situations.
Just like New York.
Different races, different ages, yeah. And it's one of those, like, oh, well, the character is really New York City itself. But it is. And having lived there, I think it really captures that wonderful melting pot culture of New York City really well.
You're not really sure, like, when you open a door, who's going to be in it and what kind of world they live in. And then you get to spend some real in-depth living inside these characters for a few short, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And get to know them in all their different worlds in one city.
Yeah, and then... So the season opener, so as they've gone from online web short to HBO's third season series, I know because we watched it, the original web series really was focused more on, like, slice of life, every time is different. And now through the HBO series, they're kind of developing a continuity of the guy, that's the character, the pot dealer's name, or the how he's referred to. We don't know his name. We're starting to connect with his life story, which as he's getting older, he's starting to wonder about, like, the realities of being a drug dealer for the rest of his life. And then...
And none of this is in, like, some kind of gangster kind of way. He's just kind of like this fly-by-night, free spirit, nice guy who just delivers nice things to nice people and flits in and out. It's not ever like, you know, gun
it's not a crime show. It's not a danger show. It's a character study. And then what was it that we wanted to say about this specific episode?
That he goes out to the countryside in Connecticut.
Or he's in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Poughkeepsie.
Yeah. And he attends the funeral of...
kind of a hippie guy.
A hippie guy.
Oh, are you talking about the hippie drum circle aspect of it? Of everyone?
Oh, maybe.
I remember you talked about that.
I did talk about that, but it was kind of mean. It was to the effect of, like...
We love hippies!
We love hippies. If I die and my funeral is an out-of-key jam session, I'm coming back. I'm coming back to haunt everyone. But no, I think... Oh, I guess this was it. Is that it showed a subculture that I really don't relate to. I mean, I don't like pot, and I don't condemn anyone who does, but it's just not my thing. But more specifically, like that Grateful Dead hippie ghosts talk to me vibe is like, they're not people I would personally enjoy hanging out with, while still, you know, compassion and love to all in the world. I wouldn't want them for friends, but that the episode did a very good job of showing them as people and putting together this sympathetic sketch of a man who lived and then died.
Yeah, that seems to be pretty par for the course of most of the people that we meet through the series of, like, well, I think given the using a character that's transient in other people's lives, again, you're going behind the doors to see where people live. Like, it's not you don't see people at work, you don't see people at the store shopping. You're in their home, so it's easy for a character to judge, like, well, I don't like how that person lives. I don't like how that person lives. Our main character, the dealer, is somebody who isn't judgmental. He just kind of, like, floats through these worlds and showing you, like, this guy's not such a bad guy. I mean, I wouldn't maybe be his friend, but, like, you know, let him do what he wants to do.
Yeah, which actually, I'm going to bring this back to Middlemarch. So I've been reading Middlemarch.
Is this a double?
Yeah, it's a double. But no, they connect in that. So I've been reading Middlemarch by George Eliot. I just finished it last night. And for those of you who don't know, it's a turn-of-the-century English novel that kind of looks at the people who live in this small town. And what it's fantastically good at is the characterizations of people who are doing things that are selfish and or not right or mean or just stupid. Like, they're making stupid choices. But she has such love for her characters that she can, without waving it away and being like, it's okay, it's just the way he is. Like when young Fred Vinci spends the money he begged. He spends money that he needed to pay back to another guy he borrowed money from, but he spent it instead. A total dumb move. But the way she paints his actions, you, like, see how he got there and didn't think he was doing a bad thing, and you feel sympathy for him rather than like, oh, he's such an idiot. But she also, while having compassion for all her characters, is also very clear about like who's messing up and who's making stupid choices right now. And I keep quoting different instances to Peter where like blah 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 is happening in the present day, and I'm like, it's just like in Middlemarch and blah blah blah. And the favorite quote I highlighted in my e-copy was something about Mary Garth is a young woman who grew up in a family that was rich and is now not rich, and so she has to take a job, but she is aware that the world does not conform to her peculiar preferences, and so rather than being annoyed at that, she just is set to laugh at a world that's ridiculous. And I think, like, if that's a life mission statement, you know, it is. It's a life mission statement. It's mine.
Make that statement.
But, like, you can't expect the world to conform just to you. So you might as well, like, laugh at the annoyances.
Even the hippies.
Even the hippies. But yeah, so that's, I think, between High Maintenance, Middlemarch, they both have such a love for the people in their worlds, even if those people aren't perfect. And I think that's the connection. So that's, our recommendations are very different aspects of the same idea. Middlemarch by George Eliot. You can find it for free. It's old enough to be public use. Public domain. You can look it up online. And High Maintenance, which you should get HBO, I guess, is the way that people watch that show. Or seek out the old YouTube shorts. They're good too.
Yeah.
They're scrappy and they're fun. And they hold out hope for all of us YouTubers with ambitions.
Speaking of ambitions and holding out hope, we just went from 31 subscribers to 32.
Wow.
We're not going to tell you who it is, because we're not that kind of people.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know who it is.
Well, there you go.
But 32. If you know who you are out there, love ya.
That's 32 on Hello Foreigner.
Yes.
Our vlog sister channel.
Where we do we do the art.
Yeah,
Here we discuss
this is where
the
we
art.
explain the art. There is where we do the art.
But if you're crossing over 32,
yeah,
you're gold.
Which this is not going out live, even though it is live to tape, so they have no idea. They have no idea that this happened now, but it did. Something's happening now.
Even now.
Even now. But that's it. That's our show for tonight. All that's left to do is say that we'll be here again about this time next week. Goodbye from me.
And me.
And him. And noodles to you.
Hit the button.
Oh, we have a closing. Noodles to you.